I'm Caroline. Usually I make videos about all sorts of things, honestly. I don't know. I'm very inconsistent. And today I thought I'd make a video about how I learned English. I don't know if this is relevant to literally anybody, but I thought it'd be nice to talk about. The reason I'm doing this right now is honestly, I've been watching a lot of videos about languages and people learning languages and things like that, and I'm kind of interested in doing those myself. I've started to learn Korean, but again, I'm very inconsistent, so we'll see where that goes. I do enjoy languages in general, though, and yeah, I thought I'd make some videos about them, and I hope you're along for the ride. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a bit of a breakdown of how I learned English, of like my main steps, and I've also noticed some like sort of turning points in my language learning journey, and I'm gonna point those out specifically. And yeah, then I might also talk a little bit about how I'm still learning English now, if I do, if I don't. So a bit of background information about me. My name is Caroline, first of all, but I feel like I've already said that. I think I've already said that. I am 23 years old. I currently live in London, but I grew up and studied in Hamburg, Germany. My native language and the only language I learned for the first 10 years of my life was German. So English was my first non-native language that I studied in school. I studied it from basically age 10 to 19, the entirety of my sort of high school time. German school is a bit different than what we know from the US or the UK, so yeah. After primary school, basically, I started learning English. I did have 2 years of learning English in primary school, but we have 4 different teachers, and I don't think I learned that much, if I'm honest. Like a bunch of vocab, maybe the numbers from 1 to 10, but that was about it. So I don't really count those. So I would say I started learning English at the age of 10, because that's when I started actually making sentences. I then started just learning it in school, 3 to 4 hours a week, so school hours of like 45 minutes, and that was it for like 4 years, I think. 3 or 4 years. Then I did a language trip to South England, which was the first time I went to an English-speaking country, I believe, and I stayed with a British family for 2 weeks. I did talk a lot to them. I was not very scared of using English, which is a good thing, but also in retrospect, very embarrassing. But you know, it had to happen. We also went to language school during the day, and we took trips and stuff like that, so that was really cool. The second time I went to England, I was 16, and I stayed with another family. Again, very sweet. I don't think any of those were like turning points in my language learning journeys. So I think after the initial just studying in school, the first time I studied English like outside of school and outside of sort of scheduled environments like a language school or this family that I was sent to specifically to learn more English. I think the first time outside of that was when I was 15 or 16. I started watching YouTube videos in English. I think Jack's Gap was the first channel I watched, and then I found other YouTubers through them, and I just watched like this lifestyle content, pretty straightforward, pretty easy to understand for a non-native speaker. But again, at that point, I had learned English for like 5 or 6 years. That was it for a good while. I remember at the time thinking, reading a story in English seems really hard. I think I tried and I was like, no, this is not happening. I just watched English YouTube videos. I also listened to a lot of English music. That was that for a good while. At the age of, I want to say 17, 18, I then started also reading in English and like reading articles in English and stories and all of that, which was really cool, obviously. Another turning point came when I was 19. I made a friend who was a native English speaker, and we would message back and forth in English, first just via text and then via voice messages, which was so scary. The first time I sent a voice message, I was like dying inside. It was so scary. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm obviously super grateful that I did it, because I wouldn't be speaking the way I do right now had I not sort of thrown myself in and then just started speaking and hoping for the best. My friend was never judgmental, by the way. Like, it was a super chill environment to practice in, and obviously, you know, I could just put my phone away and then I was back in German speaking land. So that really, really helped me. I then also started a degree which partially was taught in English. You could take seminars that were in English. I guess you could scrape by without having to speak English in class, but we did have a lot of texts that were in English. A lot of the scientific literature was just in English, and that was the way it was. You had to deal with it either way. I did spend 5.5 weeks in India, where I also spoke a lot of English, and then in 2019, I moved to London for half a year to spend a semester abroad and study abroad at an English-speaking English university. That was really cool. The studying actually felt less sort of intimidating. Then outside of that, I actually lived with people who were speaking English to me, a lot of them also learning it as like a second or third language, and that was just really nice to be able to like enter the kitchen and start speaking English and then say like, hey, good morning, how you doing, that sort of thing, like just sort of more colloquial, chill at home English basically, that I hadn't really practiced with anybody before because there was no need. So that was really cool, and that also started again when I moved here because my roommates and I communicated in English as well, which is a good segue into where my English is at now. I would say I'm doing pretty good. I can speak under most circumstances. I can read any text, I would say. I do watch scientific YouTube videos in English about like, I don't know, physics and things like that. There's still, which is really interesting, sometimes there's like little islands of knowledge that's very specific that I don't have in English. I was so surprised and dumbfounded when I realized I don't know how to talk about like orchestral music and like sheet music in English at all. I don't have the vocabulary, it just does not exist. I know all of it in German because I did play in an orchestra for a while and I learned all of the terminology, but I never learned any of that in English, and I never got in contact with it because I never played in an orchestra in English. So that was really interesting to me, this idea of like suddenly hitting a moment where you're like, I don't understand anything of what is going on. I thought I was able to speak this language. Which is, I guess, I mean, that could happen to you as well if you just enter that world for the first time, but knowing that I know what everything is called in German and how to say things in German, and I don't know how that does in English, it was very weird for me because that hasn't happened in a long time. But yeah, so sometimes I still hit one of those moments. I often have moments where me or my roommates are like, wait, what's that in English? And we just look it up and you learn a new word. Often I forget them again though, to be fair. Learning never stops, I guess. I also still watch shows with English subtitles. Obviously the ones that I watch in foreign languages, I usually watch with English subtitles just because those are the most available ones. But also, I just sometimes struggle a little bit understanding people on the first go. So I just like to have the subtitles to be sure that I'm understanding what's going on. So I would say I'm not actively acquiring the language anymore and haven't been doing that for a couple of years, but I'm still learning, if that makes sense. Like I still learn new things and I still have moments of like, wait, I don't know what's happening. But I guess, you know, that's cool. I always like those moments where you got to a point where you thought, I know most of what there is to know, and then you sort of broaden your horizon a little bit and you realize, no, there's more. And in those moments I feel like you feel like you've regressed. You feel like I've learned, like somehow I've forgotten things because suddenly the percentage of what you know is less because you now know that there's more outside of what you know. Does that make any sense? But I really like those moments because then I think that's also where all the growth lies. So for example, when I started talking to my friends, it felt like, oh my god, I don't know if I know the language as well as I thought I did, but I think objectively I was still getting better the entire time. It just felt like I dipped and then got better again because I realized that there was more to learn, basically. I try to appreciate those moments. I do think overall I'm doing okay with my English knowledge. I'm confident working in England, talking to anybody, reading any sort of text, and I don't feel the need to actively improve, but also I'm a curious person, so whenever I, hit something where I don't know what that means, I'm gonna look that up and figure it out. And yeah, that was sort of the rundown of how I learned English, what steps there were along the way. I hope this was helpful to somebody. I do want to make some more videos about languages because I find that super interesting. I might make some videos about learning Korean, but no promises because again, I'm very inconsistent. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this and I'll see you soon.